Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest is Joe DiNardi-Mack, co-founder and CEO of Sourgum. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate the opportunity here.
So you've got a really interesting company. You've got a long history in waste and recycling. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Sourgum and your background?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm actually fourth generation from the waste and recycling industry. Great grandfather came over from Italy in 1897, started off with a horse and buggy, and since then our family's been in the space ever since, buying and selling various different collection companies and disposal facilities. All just to say I've really had a front row seat to the entire industry, saw the good, the bad, and the ugly within it. Saw a lot of bad, saw a lot of ugly, non-transparent pricing, some poor practices, not a lot of sustainability. And that's kind of what led myself and my co-founder, who's actually my cousin, to start Sourgum with the goal of doing for waste of what Amazon did for retail to simplify the experience for businesses and consumers through technology, transparency, and automation. And what that looks like today is Sourgum is essentially on one end an Uber-like platform where businesses and consumers can go out and procure and manage all of their waste and recycling services completely online, all through a centralized single platform. And it's all made possible because on the back end, we have proprietary technology that our partnered haulers run on that feeds live data about what's actually going on the ground back to ourselves. So we have, the largest waste and recycling fleet without owning any assets while still having that real-time field data about what's going on.
So you sit in the between the haulers, so to speak, and I guess facilities essentially, and provide real-time data on availability, pricing. So is that where you're playing?
That's correct.
Okay. So how much of that is a shifting landscape? I know that you hear often, X numbers of dollars per pound. Are those things fixed, or is the model more demand driven, supply and demand driven from a pricing perspective, or does it really depend on who you are? Is there a lot of fluctuation in those in rates and in how things are done?
So while, the waste and recycling industry itself seems pretty straightforward, behind the scenes, it's actually pretty complex. Down to like the local municipality level, there may be different rates to actually dispose of different debris. From one town to the next, the pricing for the same type of service could be vastly different. And what we've done is we've created a lot of technology behind the scenes to, simplify that process for both the haulers, the local service providers on the ground to put that information in, to then make it very simple for the demand side users, consumers, businesses to have very transparent pricing, know exactly what they're going to pay for how much weight they're putting in for exact services they're getting. So while you can't get one price across the country, you can see the price for every specific location across the country.
Now, are commercial haulers and/or, I'm thinking, dumpsters, somebody's taking a dump load from a construction site. Is there great variability one town to the next in terms of what the cost to get rid of that is? And is that something where, haulers or construction companies or whomever that may be hauling large loads are looking at it saying, what's the transportation cost versus the cost to, dispose?
Yeah, absolutely. So the two factors in pricing are the trucking costs and the cost to dispose. While the trucking cost may stay the same from town to town, that disposal cost is really what shifts anywhere from, it could be as low as $25 to as high as $125. So especially for construction companies when they're going out to, bid on a new project, knowing that exact pricing they're going to pay and estimating how much weight is coming off that site is a large factor in ensuring that they provide a competitive bid.
And it would seem to me also that, I don't know if we're getting closer and closer to a closed market, so to speak, wherein, towns don't want people hauling from other towns, other municipalities. How do we prevent that? Or is that the case, or is that just a sense that I have? And, how do you prevent that from happening if, I would assume you're dealing with a largely non-permitted on a per dump basis. In other words, I don't have to get a permit to bring a load. I just need to show up and pay the fee. So is that something that's coming down the pipe where we're going to have more restriction? We've got less space available, not more space for refuse. So how does that work?
Yep. So we don't anticipate too much restriction on the municipality level. Most of the time, what's happening is these debris are picked up and, for very densely populated states, they actually may be getting transported out of state to a landfill in a different area. So a lot of these municipalities are willing to, keep the markets open. They drive down costs for their constituents there. where, we work with like 80 to 100% of the haulers in any given area. And that's how we're able to kind of create this like robust pricing system that helps keep pricing very low for consumers and businesses. And then on the disposal front, it also, by keeping the markets open, allows for some more innovation outside of just the collection side, where we're seeing more and more like alternative disposal facilities starting to open up. So not just a traditional landfill anymore, but food to energy plants, food waste to composting, different types of cardboard and plastic recyclers, all of which are helping to reduce the cost of disposal while still creating like a circular economy and diverting more from landfills.
So tell us a little bit about your business model. Are you subscription based? Is it a fee for service? Is it a percentage of transaction? How does that work? And who is the customer in this case? Is it the end user? Is it the hauler? Just give us some insight into how it works without the secret sauce, of course.
Of course, absolutely. So we actually service a very wide range of customers. So we have both on-demand needs. So if you need like a big metal dumpster for your home or construction site, that's on a per order basis. You can simply order online. Everything's fully transparent. You get a customer portal to kind of manage all that as well, all the way to recurring waste and recycling services for large multi-locational businesses who need it picked up, say, 3 times a week. They may need the trash, the cardboard, different recycling streams. And that is like a contractual subscription-based service. So we pretty much cover the entire gambit on that side. And then for the suppliers themselves, we actually provide them with both free and paid technology to better run their business. So they get a free portal that has some basic, use cases to interact with the Sourgum marketplace ecosystem, as well as a paid version that allows them to run their entire business on that platform to kind of digitize the entire experience for them. And then the way we make money is, on the, demand side, we provide them with a, single price. It doesn't matter which vendors we use on the backside. So it's a consistent experience for them. And then not only are we able to save them, 20% on average, but any additional savings above that, we keep that spread between us and the vendor.
Oh, so you're actually making the money in the process by creating greater efficiency. How large is the marketplace? I mean, it must be enormous in terms of the full scale waste hauling and recycling.
So we provide a service across the entire US, including Hawaii and Alaska. We have over 5,000 haulers in the marketplace currently, providing services on a very like hyper local level. We love working with like local regional haulers, where you can imagine they're doing about like a 30, 50-mile operating radius from their home base. So it's a super hyper local market, and we have plenty of vendors across the country to fulfill a need.
So, Joe, one of the questions I want to ask, because you pivoted at some point in your career to go from, being in the facility business, if I understand, or various aspects, to what sounds like a software development company, and help share, because we're all about sharing successes of entrepreneurship, some of the lessons learned, maybe the reasons for your pivot. Obviously you saw the opportunity. Any nuggets that you would share that perhaps if you knew then what you know now, or any pieces that you'd be willing to share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the reason for the pivot was ability to scale. Our family has always been in hard asset businesses, owning the facilities, owning the trucks. We wanted to make a larger impact throughout the industry, and realize that the amount of capital needed to really reach a national scale with hard assets was very constricting. So I actually worked for a small prop tech company for a few years as a software engineer. It was my experience there that kind of opened up my eyes to what we can do to this very outdated legacy industry. So that's kind of what led the shift to us to go more asset light, completely software development, and being really the technology behind the scenes to kind of power the industry. As far as, nugget and advice, the only thing I can really say is your first product is probably not going to be pretty or great, but just get it out into the hands of users. Waiting too long for people to actually go and interact with it. It's that live customer feedback that really led to a lot of our growth. After I kind of learned that hurdle of it doesn't have to be perfect to get it out into customers' hands to start.
Yeah, it's a fascinating industry. I always say about the software industry, and this isn't a knock on the industry, it's one of the only things that you have flaws in your product when it goes out. And it's an iterative product that's going to constantly evolve and develop. And, I think that there's not enough people that understand that are buying it. They expect perfection, and it just doesn't work that way. No,
And I picked a lot of it for myself on like how we ran our business. And then as soon as I got it out into the hands of other users, realized, well, not everybody ran it the same way we did. There's a lot of changes we had to make and pivots to kind of accommodate the vast number of ways people actually wanted to use the software.
Excellent. Joe, if people want to engage with you, want to learn more about the company, want to sign up as either haulers or customers, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, best way to reach out is hello@sourgum.com. That's just SOURGUM.com.
Fantastic. Our guest has been Joe DiNardi-Mack, co-founder and CEO of Sourgum. It's been a pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you, John. Likewise, thank you for having me.
Fantastic. And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.